Welcome to this Yin30. I'll probably dim the light. You can do the same, just to dim the light. And before we come on our mats, just make sure that you have possibly 2 cushions. You definitely want to have some sort of blanket. I think that's going to help you for a little prop up. If you have blocks, it's also a good thing. I'll guide you through the practice, how to use all these things. If you have them, or if you don't, I'll try to guide you as much as possible as well. So let's get started straight away. I'll keep my water bottle close. I need to drink. It's a good idea to hydrate. Just little sips, so that it's not too heavy on the stomach. And we'll start right away with a dragonfly. So you can extend your legs out. If you're a little bit tight, if you haven't moved and you feel a bit stiff, it's probably a good idea to use either blocks or cushions are probably more comfortable under your knees, just so that you keep a soft little bend. You don't have to open out to the splits. Whatever works for you. Just find a comfortable spot here. Maybe you can slightly pull the flesh out, just so that it helps with some rotation from the pelvic floor, or the hips rather, the groin that tilts. And you want to try to keep your spine as straight as possible. There's no point trying to force into wanting to reach your head down. Just wherever you are, as long as you feel a good stretch into the back of the legs, the hips. As usual, we're in for quite a few minutes, so you will have time to feel the pose, and then whatever works for you. So if you have, I don't know, a little foam roller, that's probably even better than a bolster. This one maybe is a little bit high, but a little bit slippery too. But if you're the other way around, if it's on your mat, it won't slide, or you can just gently hold it. So that's an option. It's always a good idea to rest your forehead. I'll use that. Just to find a comfortable position before you find some stillness, or just finding your edge. Feeling the breath. Just taking your time to start to ease into the practice. So maybe, again, not too deep into this first one, just making sure that you can let the breath flow so that you become present for this practice, and try to let go of the day, any worries, anything that might hinder your practice, anything that clogs the mind. Just taking a few deep breaths to let it go, soften, find your edge, and just relax there for a moment. So remembering that the Yin practice is a very easy meditative practice, just a slight activation of the body as we work on the energy, the meridian lines that help to activate different systems in the body, help the energy to flow in a more balanced and harmonious way. And it's not just the body, it's also the mind. Sometimes there's this what we call psychosomatic aspect, which basically means that sometimes resistance at the mind level can create some resistance in the body. So as we get through our practice, you can notice if you find resistance to a pose, resistance in a pose, resistance from the pose. It might come on many different shapes and forms. And really what we're doing here is we're just here to observe, experience, and probably the best way in this meditative practice, it's to just focus on the breath. Nice few breaths here. Very slowly you can start to inhale your head up. Still nice long spine, walking your hands back. You can help your knees to come back with your hands, removing any props. And you can just take a quick lean back just to let go in the hips. You can maybe take a little tabletop if that feels good. If you don't have any wrist or shoulder issues, just a little lift, relax into the legs, or maybe just simply give it a bit of a shake, maybe swinging your feet a few times side to side. And then we'll come into a bit of a strong pose, so I'll give already a modification. So you can just go into a normal Janu Shirshasana half butterfly, or if you want to go further, and I recommend for that to bring the body, the right leg, exactly to the right edge, so you have a little bit more padding for your knee. If you don't have any knee or ankle issues, maybe you can just bring the inside of the foot to the floor. So your toes are pointing back, and you try to open and bring your knee out as much as possible. So this is a pretty deep stretch into the groin, hence the use maybe of a block or blanket under your hip if you feel this is too much into the hip. I can already feel it in the hip actually. So don't hesitate to prop up. I'm going to keep that for a good support here. So what we'll do, we'll just lean forward, nice and easy, just about to the middle between your legs. If you're into your normal Janu Shirshasana, you can just fold over your shin, taking a moment to adjust here. And you just relax. Again, take a moment to get into your pose, your edge. So we won't be there for too long. This one is pretty strong. So again, just notice any resistance in the body and the mind level. Just enjoy the challenge. See if you can send your breath wherever you have tension or what might appear like pain. And try to let it dissolve, this resistance, this strong sensation with your exhale, knowing that everything eventually will pass. So we'll just be there for a couple of minutes. We'll take last few breaths. We'll just do a modification here in this pose. So you'll keep your leg as it is, and we'll move right over your right leg. So see if you can maybe help with your right hand to lift your lower ribs so that you try to place your body over your right leg. So we'll just get into a little bit of a different stretch for that left leg. And you just try to fold over. So again, if you need any prop to place maybe on your thigh, shin, knee, whatever feels comfortable, so that you can relax your forehead. And just use the breath to settle in here. Using every exhale to ease into the pose, to find more softness, more allowing. Last few breaths. And we'll stay in almost the same position. You're just going to bring your left knee by your right knee, keeping your leg, foot just to the outside of your hip, so you might readjust. One good way is to also help your calf to roll out, so you create a bit more space for your leg to come down. So ideally you want to keep your left hip in contact with the floor. Again, if this is too much, you can prop up your right hip. So you'd place the prop under your right hip, pelvis, or even left hip. But it's probably best to sort of try to allow that left hip to sort of have space to go down. As you go back, it's going to have a tendency to lift up. So if there's more room under, it's probably going to be easier to help level the hips. So you want to try to keep your hips leveled as much as possible. And you can just start to lean back on your hands, maybe your elbows if you can go further. And you want to try to make sure that your left knee is not lifting. So if you can go a little bit further, maybe you can even come all the way down onto your back. And if you still want more, you can even stretch your arms overhead. And you just relax there. Again, using the breath to soften. Enjoy the sensations, the challenge, the use of the breath. So to come out of this pose, you really want to go nice and easy, especially if you were reclined all the way back. Just really gradually coming up. So probably the best way is to bring your elbows sort of under. So you come onto your elbows, you can help with your left hand on your left ankle to come up, come back on your hands. And then very slowly, you want to lean to the right to release that left foot. Ooh, you can extend your legs, so it's pretty good on the knee, good quad stretch. And you can, again, maybe lean back and just take a few windshield wipers, releasing into the hips. So really rolling those hips, nice and gentle as you exhale. And we'll just set up for the other side. So again, you want to come right to the edge here so that you have hopefully some support for your knee on the right side. I just have about enough, but and my mat is a bit wider than the usual. So hopefully you find a place where you have some padding for your knee, but again, you can use maybe a blanket for a little bit of padding. So assuming the same pose that you had before, either foot on the inside or behind you, opening into that right knee as much as possible. And then you just fold forward between your legs. So again, use the breath to gradually get to your edge. So again, this is a pretty strong pose. You don't want to push it. Luckily, we won't be there for too long, but it's still quite a bit of a challenge, so make sure you don't go too deep into it. Just notice with this strong pose any difference between the right side and the left side, whether one side has maybe more resistance. And just try to become aware where the resistance might be coming from. Muscle tension, niggly, tight joints. Maybe energetical blockage. Might even be a mental block, limitation from an injury. All we're doing in this meditative practice is, again, to observe so that you actually, even unconsciously, start to dig in, to get to know yourself a bit better. Sometimes we forget the past, or we don't have the awareness to realize what limits us. So we just explore. So nice and easy. You can come over your leg. So if you need to slightly come up, you can come up, or maybe just slide over your leg. Again, you can maybe help just sort of gently twist, pushing your left hand into the floor, just so that you place your lower ribs a little bit more onto your thigh, so that you can fold a bit better over your thigh in a more sort of straight way over your leg, so that you feel a different stretch on that right side, lower back, outside of the hip, inside of the hip, whatever you might feel. Just a few breaths here. Trying to keep the length in the spine. Very gently, you can inhale your head up, just drawing your knee next to your left. Again, you might roll your calf out, just so that you can place your foot next to your hip, trying to keep your hips leveled. Again, maybe using your blanket, and again, you might notice I can feel definitely a bit tighter on this side for me, so it's a little bit more difficult to keep my knee down. It wants to lift up a bit more tight on the right side. So just modify if you're the same. Maybe it's easier on this side, who knows? That's for you to notice whether you can recline all the way down. See, I've got to adjust. My knee is really wanting to lift up. This side is not so good. So really just trying to let the breath relax that body as much as you can. And if you feel you've gone too far, but for sure trying to resist the temptation, that's probably the only one resistance you want to go with, is resisting the temptation to maybe recline all the way back or go into the same depth as you had on the other side, if that's one side that you're more limited. So I'm not maybe showing you the best way. I've just know my body, and I just have to pay a bit more attention and really adjust on this side to go into the same depth. So I suppose that's what it is about, getting to know your body, know what you can do. I'd say that I practice enough to know and have the awareness, but you might not be at this stage. So that's really important that you go easy into it and take your time, stay aware. So we'll just take a few more breaths here, just taking a moment to relax, soften, and just enjoy. Last few breaths in this strong pose. And you might keep your eyes closed as we release from this last pose. So very slowly, starting to come up gently on your right elbow, just so that you can start lifting the body, and just roll over onto your left side so that you can release your right leg nice and long, and you come right back into a Shavāsana, lying back with minimal amount of movement so that you don't disturb the energy, and just feel as you relax on your back, the release, especially now on the right side. And I recommend at least 3 to 5 minutes in your Shavāsana, maybe 10 or 15 minutes if you have the time, to really feel and enjoy all this energy flowing So most probably quite a bit in the hips, legs. Just enjoy that. Relax, let the video end. I'll leave you there for as long as you want, need, can. Hari Om Tat Sat. Peace, love and light.